This breathing exercise is called 360-degree breath because the idea is that we want to utilize the full expansion of our breath. And of course, our lungs sit within our rib cage. So the first place for us to breathe is into our rib cage. This might go against what you may have heard cued for breathing before, which might have been to breathe into your belly or to use belly breathing. Sometimes this is used as a simplified way to talk about use of the diaphragm. The unfortunate thing is, if we really start focusing just on our belly or breathing into our belly, what can happen is that we actually bypass all this beautiful space and expansion that's available for us and designed to occur as each of the ribs moves open and closed with the intercostal muscles and expands here. And what happens then is that a lot of the pressure gets directed down towards our pelvic floor or out towards that tender abdominal or linear alba line at the front of the body. So if we can actually get more of that breath first expanding into the rib cage and then traveling down into the belly, that's when we can get a full, complete inhalation and exhalation, because each inhalation is only as good as the previous exhalation. Sorry. Let's start with the rib cage. You might like to imagine the rib cage as an umbrella opening up on all sides. And we're going to explore each side at a time so you can start to get an idea of what each side feels like to breathe into, and then where you might have a little bit more opportunity to expand into different parts of the rib cage that perhaps you're underutilizing in your not so conscious breathing patterns. So for this pranayama, as for any breathing exercise, I'd encourage either a lowering of the gaze or a closing of the eyes so you can really focus internally. And then just making sure that you're feeling comfortable wherever you're seated, whether it is on the ground, whether you'd like some support at your back, or you can even do this practice lying down, lying on your side in child's pose, wherever you find yourself. So firstly, bringing a hand to the front of the rib cage where there's an upside down V shape. Having your hand so that you can feel both sides of the V shape. And then noticing your breath. You might notice a little bit of movement at that hand. As you inhale, a little bit of pressure outwards towards the hand. And as you exhale, a little bit of softening away from the hand. And sliding that hand around the rib till you find the side of the rib. I tend to bring my thumb behind me as I do so I can grasp the side of the rib cage. You may also like to bring your other arm to the other side if you have that available to you, depending on your position. And continuing that awareness of the rib cage movement with the breath. Perhaps noticing some movement of the hands outwards on the inhale and softening in on the exhale. And we're going to stay at the sides here for a little bit longer than we did at the front. The reason for this is that in modern day-to-day life, we can often tend to breathe a little bit more into the front, a little bit less into the sides and the back. This is where I'm talking about this opportunity to breathe into all 360 degrees of the rib cage and to increase how much breath is going into the sides of the ribs is not a forced thing. It's a softening and a gentle approach. It's more of an encouragement with awareness. So seeing if now you can encourage a little bit more opening to the sides of the body and a little bit more softening back at the sides. Don't worry if it feels quite difficult. This is your first time trying this. It can take a little bit of practice for the brain and the muscle connection to build. But over time and with practice, you'll find that you can breathe more and more into these different areas of the rib cage. So from there, bringing one or both hands now to the back of the rib cage. If you're finding it hard to reach behind your back, you could also lie down onto your back so that you can feel this section pressing against a mat or the floor or a bolster. And then continuing your breath and now becoming aware of the movement of the rib cage at the back of the body. Again, this is likely to be a lot more subtle than it was at the front. And then really encouraging a little bit more movement and opening into those back ribs. Good. So now we're going to bring it all together. You may like to bring your hands still to parts of your rib cage. You may even like to bring your hands to the front as a gentle reminder to send breath to other areas other than the front. Or you may be comfortable now to just release your hands to a softened position at the sides of the body. And noticing now whether with the breath and that awareness of the rib cage, that you can encourage a little bit more opening into the sides and the back. And then remaining here in this practice for a period of time that feels supportive for you. Knowing that this is the foundation, this is the start of developing a full expansive breath. From here, some suggestions are to try this breathing exercise in different postures. So as I recommended before, maybe lying on one side so you can really feel more of the breath moving out away from you on the side that's open to the air and moving down into the pressure of the support underneath on the other side. You could try this in child's pose. So coming forward and down, which will then allow you to really breathe into the space around you and have that little bit of compression for the front body. You can try this lying in bed before you go to sleep at night to encourage some beautiful, expansive, restful breathing overnight. And then from there, of course, starting to, once you've got the hang of it, see if you can bring it into your day-to-day awareness in life when you're standing up, when you're moving around, and even when you're doing some stronger movements.